is there any funding that people can get from local authorities or to help
Yeah.
fund?
So funding a place at the Filo Project happens two ways. So one is that people either fund it privately, but yes, and people can get funding through the local authority as well. So they can apply for a Care Act assessment to check if they've got eligible needs. I can't assume everyone's Care Act assessment, but the likelihood is if you've got a diagnosis of dementia, one of the needs we have that local authorities have a duty to make sure people are having met is a connection with their community.
Good.
So yeah, that's one of the recognised needs under the Care Act. So yeah, you can apply, and we have commission places as well through local authorities. I don't want to get political, but it's one of those real things we need to be talking about. NHS care is free at the point of delivery at the moment
Yeah.
in the UK. Social care isn't, and that's really challenging for people, especially in the current climate. Um, but what I would say is, going back to what you were saying about the earlier and the better, uh, one of the things I sometimes say to people is think about this. If we're looking at it with a financial lens, think about the investment you're making for future, because
Mhm.
the reality is if you need to be starting to consider residential care or nursing care, the costs for those kinds of levels of care and placements are huge.
Mm.
So we don't like to think of it from a financial perspective, but there is that idea that if
That's
you
the harsh reality of it, though,
the
isn't it?
reality we're living in, we
Yeah.
shouldn't be frightened to talk about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and one of the things we do, especially for clients who maybe, don't meet the eligibility criteria, because there are funding thresholds for local authorities around who they can fund and who they can't support, is let's try and get you some help maximising your income. So making sure you've done things like applied for attendance allowance, applied for any grants, applied for whatever, and we'll help people do that, because I think that's really important. And using those funds and you feeling comfortable, this is a valid thing to spend your
Yeah.
money on. And
Yeah.
it can be a hard thing when you've not, I'm really privileged when I think about my position with my parents. I've worked in health and social care for all of my career, so I'm kind of prepped for, if I need to do things, this is what I need to do. But I remember chatting with my best friend, um, who had a family member who needed some help, and it was like a whole new world to her. She's
Mm.
like, how, like, I didn't even think about this in advance. I didn't plan for this happening. I don't understand all these forms. I don't understand what I'm entitled to, what my family member's entitled to. Will this help? I don't know if it will help. So it is good, and I'm glad you do ask, Natalie, because I think it's important people know, because if we can
Yeah.
plan
Yeah.
and know, we can't
And
take
people,
the badness away, but we can make it
no.
easier to get through.
Yeah. And equally, I think when it comes to funding and what people are entitled to, that people just assume that they won't get it. So, well, there's no point me doing it. I won't get that. And I think it's a little bit maybe a little bit confusing or a bit of a minefield. And I would
It
just
is.
say, just try, like try and get everything because
Lots of local authorities now, just as a handy hint for people, and
yeah,
more local authorities I'm seeing are including things on their websites like eligibility criteria, because there is,
okay,
the reality is there can be a wait. Some areas there
yeah,
isn't, some there is. But a lot of local authorities, it's great. I've seen a few. You can go on now and look, like, would I be eligible? And
brilliant,
again, I always say even if it's like, no, you're not, that piece of information is going to help you, because actually, rather than wait, you can make your right. Okay,
yeah,
can't go down that road. Let's look at another. And that's what I'd encourage people to do. It's not see it as an end of a road, but
yeah,
actually, I've got to go down a different road.
yeah.
Let me find out that information. And the more information you can gather, the more better place you're going to be to get the right support in place for you.
So just to double check then, so a lot of local authority websites you're saying will say whatever allowance,
Yeah.
and this is the criteria. So
It will
rather,
never, yeah, it won't ever tell you exactly,
no,
because adult social care funding is very complicated with lots of various things depending on whether you're staying at
but
home.
it'll give you an idea rather than applying for it, waiting for it to be told no. You're
Yes.
saving yourself the time. That's what
Yeah,
they're
and
basically
there are
saying
other,
now.
things like Age Concern have some great advice on their website. When people come to us, we give them advice as well. We'll signpost them to those things, and try and help them through that. We want to try and make it as easy as possible
Yeah.
for people to come in and get the support.